Our story kicks off when, out of nowhere, a notification announces that the immortality system is active for the host. Suddenly, the protagonist's soul slips out of his body as the guy screams in despair. He realizes he's been resurrected or traveled through time, and the first thing he sees is a big fat cat. In its eyes, he can see the reflection of a giant black cat falling right toward him. Next, the giant Fane simply flattens his face without a second thought. The guy wakes up again, and the system is already showing the rewards from kicking the bucket. Annoyed, he questions what kind of crazy system makes you level up by passing away and what this energy boost is all about. Full of rage, the young man punches the wall and shatters it easily, complaining about the cost-benefit of the whole thing. Right after he's blown away by his new strength and figures the system might actually be good for something. Curious, he starts wondering what the skill points he just earned are for. The boy tries to call the system to ask a few questions, but the blue screen doesn't show any signs of life. Lying on the floor, he cries about not having a tutorial and having to figure everything out the hard way. Someone walks by complaining about a beggar in the way, and the boy notices his original body is still there. Without even blinking, he walks over to his old body and starts rummaging through it, looking for anything hidden. The guy finds a few coins and realizes that if he passes on hundreds of times, he could get rich from the copies. He thinks that passing on hurts like crazy, but since it already happened once, he decides there's nothing left to fear. And so the boy starts testing various ways to meet his end, like taking a leap from a building or even getting hit by a stray arrow out of nowhere while walking down the street. Lastly, he tries to eat until his stomach can't take it anymore and bursts. But all his attempts were useless, and his passing rating remained an F. A new screen appears showing he only has 5 chances to revive, and the boy starts to panic. In other words, if he uses up all his chances and passes on by accident, it's game over. This means he'll be kicked out of the world, and the guy laments that even with a system, he's going to fail. Stomping his foot on the ground, he decides he's not going to let that happen and that he'll pass on with a purpose. The young man thinks there must be a way to make the most of this system to get ahead. Meanwhile, somewhere else, a person was casually walking through the city streets. A guy is collecting a debt from another man to buy medicine for his mother, but the debtor refuses to pay. Watching from a distance, our protagonist smiles because this was exactly what he wanted to see. Losing his patience, the debtor shows the collector hard to the ground, telling him to let go. Our hero approaches the fallen man and offers to help him collect the debt. With his face all bruised, the man looks up and asks who the boy talking to him is. With a smile on his face, the young man replies that he's a guy who helps collect debts. A little later, they arrive at the debtor's house, and our protagonist walks in without even asking. The debtor, a big and strong guy, asks what he's going to do if he doesn't pay. He's going to deal with him. Before the guy can finish his sentence, a sword is already at his neck, leaving the tough guy terrified. The debtor tells the boy that if he takes him out, he won't gain anything from it. So, the young man lowers the sword and tells the guy not to worry because he won't be coming after him. With a sly grin, he says he's going to send his ghost to collect the debt. The debtor is completely confused as a dark aura starts to emanate from the boy's body. In a swift move, the protagonist takes himself out right in front of the debtor, who screams in terror. The system screen appears, and his passing rating goes up to D, giving it more skill points. 7 days later, the DTOR is sleeping peacefully in his bed without a care in the world. Suddenly, a strange red energy starts to float around the sleeping man's body. Feeling something odd, the debtor wakes up in the middle of the night and rubs his eyes, still sleepy. Our hero's ghost appears before him with a creepy smile and says he's come to collect the debt. Outside, the boy celebrates with bags of money while the debtor screams desperately for his mother. Another 7 days pass, and a woman tries to give medicine to a sick man lying in bed. Annoyed, the man refuses to take the medicine and blows the bowl away, not caring at all. Out of nowhere, our protagonist appears and drinks everything from the bowl, leaving the two of them confused. With a smile and a thumbs up, he gives a positive sign as if the drink was good. Immediately after, the young man drops to the floor gone, leaving the couple in shock at the scene. The man then gets up and accuses the woman of trying to poison him, just as the boy's soul reappears. 1 hour later, the same man appears on the street, handing a bag of money to our protagonist. Crying with gratitude, he thanks him for his brother, having tested the poison and proving his innocence. The young man takes the money, saying he likes to help. And so, 3 whole months of work go by. On a table, a cup of tea is served peacefully during a sunny afternoon. Our hero is now rich and well-dressed, all thanks to his unique ability to collect debts by passing away. He discovered that passing on to defend others increases his rating, and he became the Deb King. His physical condition has improved a lot, But now he has a new problem with his power rating. To level up, he needs better quality passings, and this world has some very powerful villains. He thinks facing strong people is the way to go, but his current physical condition is much worse than theirs. Determined, the young man decides he needs to find some fighting techniques to forge a new path. Sitting at a table, he's surprised by someone who asks if he is Kiyomu, the dead king. In front of him stood a beautiful woman with long hair, a blindfold over her eyes, and a staff in her hand. With a goofy grin, the boy confirms who he is, thinking the lady looks like a video game character. She tells him that her family was wiped out by the Wuji Society and that she was the only one who managed to escape. Looking at the young man, she asks if he can help her collect this debt of blood. In return, the woman offers to teach him the powerful immortality fist of the Kwa family. Completely distracted, the young man asks if her name happens to be Ning, leaving the woman confused. Sometime later, on a busy street, someone starts yelling loudly for the boss of the place. Our hero was at a melon stand and started messing with the vendor with some lame jokes. The vendor, a muscular guy, asks if the kid is just there to stir up trouble, and the young man confirms it. Losing his patience, the butcher grabs his cleaver and threatens to make mince meat out of the young man on the spot. With a dark smile, the young man reveals that the butcher took out the Kia family and that today he will pay. Then the young man charges forward using his 8th series of exercises that he learned not long ago. But he was no match and ends up taking a huge blow to the head from the giant man's cleaver. The boy drops to the ground, gone while his soul floats out of his body in front of everyone. Even after having checked out, our hero still had a smile on his face as if it were all part of a plan. The butcher gets furious for not controlling himself and orders his men not to let the body disappear. The protagonist revives a short distance away, but feels a terrible pain in his shoulder and complains about the injury. Despite the pain, he smiles and says that getting sliced hurts a lot, but it's also fun. He searches his old body for his wallet while complaining to the system for more benefits. A screen pops up showing that he has reached rating C and completed the beginner level of the fist. The young man realizes the system wanted him to use the points to increase the technique's proficiency. The system informs him that he doesn't meet the requirements to distribute the points and will do it randomly. He has a new target to test his skills on and decides he needs to make the butcher take him out. The wind blows hard through the city streets as a new hunt is about to begin. In a shack, the butcher tells his master that he took out a kid from the Kyo family. He writes on a scroll that the family was wiped out and that in hair showing up is suspicious. The man thinks there might be a survivor, but the safest bet is that all members are gone. Suddenly hears a noise and shouts, asking who's there with a scared look on his face. Our protagonist appears at the door, and the butcher is shocked to see that the boy wasn't gone. The young man introduces himself as Kia Jing and says he's come to avenge his brother Kiyomu, who is taken out by him. Then he charges forward, yelling for the man to witness his legacy as he prepares for an all-out attack. The butcher defends himself with his cleaver, and our hero grabs the blade with his bare hands. The man taunts the young man, asking if he's scared with his face in his hand, and the young man shoots back. Even with the unbearable pain, the boy doesn't lose heart and challenges the butcher to finish him right there. The man calls them both crazy and notices his knife is stuck in the young man's hand. Seizing the opportunity, the protagonist lands a powerful punch on the butcher's chin. The man says he's different from his brother and seems to have actually trained for this fight. With a bloody nose, the butcher says he overdid it, but it won't happen again. 5 minutes later, our protagonist is brutally defeated and thrown to the ground. The giant man breathes heavily, exhausted after the intense fight he just had. He thinks the young man was brave for coming for revenge, even knowing he could perish. The butcher thinks the situation has changed and that the letter will now confuse his master. Suddenly, he's caught off guard by an unexpected attack that destroys part of his house. Yet, another brother appears to avenge the fallen one, and the butcher prepares to fight them all. A huge explosion destroys the shack while a carrier pigeon flies far away. The man falls to his knees on the ground, completely defeated and bleeding, with no strength to continue. Exhausted, he complains that he took out the youngest, and now the older one came, and that this never ends. Another brother appears and chokes him, asking how many of them there are, and if this revenge will ever end. After passing on 4 times, he notices that his fist proficiency and his points have decreased. With only 1 revive attempt left, the young man thinks this revenge is going to be hard to get. But he decides the opportunity is now, as the enemy is weak and it's time to act. He remembers that with only 20% proficiency, he managed to fight on equal terms. Determined, the young man decides he will complete the mission to trade for more techniques with Shu. Lying defeated, he thinks that each brother was stronger and the last one was almost at his power level. The butcher rests, exhausted, next to the young man's body in front of a Buddhist statue. All beaten up, the man believes the battle had finally come to an end. To his amazement, our hero reappears once more, shouting that, of course, it's not over. The butcher falls to the ground, completely terrified and with no strength left to fight. With his eyes glowing, our hero charges forward and delivers a final blow, shouting for divine justice. The battle finally comes to an end, and the butcher meets his end at the hands of our protagonist. After the victory, he takes the money bags the man was carrying as a nice reward. He finds a letter and realizes that being taken out by a villain can yield a higher rating. With a smile, he decides to take the other letter to Shu and see if he can get more benefits from it. Soon after, he walks calmly through an alley in Yin City to meet his client. Arriving at a house, he takes off his hat and announces to Shu that he is finally back from the mission. The young man then opens the bedroom door and enters to give the woman a report on everything that happened. With her sharp perception, the woman asks where he's been all this time he was missing. She listens intently and notices that the boy's voice is very different from what she remembered. The woman says his voice has changed and that he now sounds like an adult because of the energy boost. He tries to play it off, saying it's normal, but the woman, suspicious, asks for proof of his identity. Not knowing what to do, the young man awkwardly asks again if her name happens to be Ning. A flashback shows that he spent the entire last month asking her random names. To prove who he is, the young man approaches from behind and gives the woman an unexpected hug. With a goofy smile on his face, the young man thinks they're pretty close now. Her hand slowly approaches his as the boy gets a little nervous about the situation. The woman then recognizes him by his scent and confirms that it's really him in front of her. She says her divine, I cannot be fooled, but the young man jokes about the sharing in. He then asks when she will teach him the second chapter of the fist. As promised, the young man insists, saying he feels he's almost in the force accumulation phase and wants to learn soon. Seeing his stubbornness, the woman holds his hand and tells him to come to her for an assessment. She places his hand on her body to feel his bones and see how much more he needs to train. With a gentle touch, the woman begins to feel the young man's body structure to see his level. Surprised, she notes that his muscles are very hard and well developed for the amount of time. The woman is startled and asks what he made her touch, and the young man doesn't understand her question. He says it was just his arm, and she's impressed that he achieved that in just 1 month. She praises the young man, saying he's incredible, but that there are no shortcuts to training strength. The young man takes advantage of the compliments and asks her to teach him the next step of his training now. He thinks the immortality fist is perfect for his cultivation and needs to master it as quickly as possible. With determination, the young man transforms into a cute kitten and says this is his path of cultivation. The woman tells him to finish his training first, and the boy reveals he has already defeated the butcher. Shocked, the woman spits out all the tea she was drinking and asks how that's possible. He tells her he found a secret letter on the man's body, but couldn't understand the writing. She takes the letter and reveals it's a secret code from the Wuji Society and that she didn't expect this. As promised, the woman agrees to teach him the next step of the immortality fist. She begins to recite some mantras and teachings for the young man to follow in his meditation. Half an hour later, a system screen appears showing that his fist is now at the expert level. He realizes that receiving rewards from the system is faster and that he needs a stronger villain. The woman hands him a book and says it's the method to decipher the secret writing in the letter. The young man finds it strange that even being blind, she managed to find the book and wonders if she's faking it. He then starts using the book to compare the symbols and try to translate the letter's contents. After a while, he manages to decipher it and discovers that the emperor will be leaving the capital soon. The Wuji Society is summoning its members for a secret mission to take out the Emperor of Yin. He asks where and when they plan to attack, but the woman says the code is incomplete. She says the society is bold and that if they act together, the chance of success is quite high. The young man questions if the Wuji is that strong, and the woman reveals she hasn't told him everything yet. Their leader is the martial saint, the second greatest martial arts master of the current era. He founded the Wuji Society and destroyed several families to steal their martial arts. The Kyo family's technique was extraordinary, but even so, it didn't escape the villain's grasp. She says she didn't teach him the fist for him to defeat the martial saint, but to strengthen himself. The woman reveals that her true desire is for him to help her, so she can get her revenge. Our protagonist remains silent for a moment, thinking about everything he just heard. With a confident smile, he says he has an idea and that maybe he can infiltrate the society. The woman calls him crazy and says that's the same as wanting to join them. The young man slams his hand on the table, showing he's determined to go through with his plan. He explains that he'll join the society as an assassin and take out the emperor to cause a conflict. If he can't infiltrate, he'll keep dealing with the members to uncover the plan. The woman thinks the idea is insane, but the young man sees it as a chance to become the emperor's assassin. He thinks the society members have access to a large collection of martial arts. The young man argues that revenge is almost impossible and that at most he'll cause some trouble. The woman warns him that he'll perish if he tries something like that, but he doesn't seem to care. With a determined look, he asks what's wrong with passing away and holds back a laugh. The woman falls silent for a moment, surprised by the boy's confident response. She realizes he's full of emotion and wonders what she can offer him in return. The young man suddenly gets close to her, and the woman, blushing, thinks he's interested in her. He asks what she's thinking, and the woman, embarrassed, doesn't know what to say. She says she feels she can't repay his help, and he asks if there's anything she can do. He says that now that she mentioned it, there is something only she can do to help him. Curious, the woman asks what it is and what he needs her to do at that moment. The young man shows a red book and says with a smile that what he wants is a secret. The woman is confused by the mysterious answer and doesn't understand what he's planning. She decides to trust him and agrees to let him try since he's not afraid of passing on. The young man, satisfied, asks if she knows of any other Wuji members nearby. She reveals that the lord of Yinxing City, Go Yayan, is one of the society's members. Meanwhile, in the streets, a man is being violently whipped without any mercy. Another man is also struck by the whip while trying to defend himself from the attack. A young master from the Go family arrives, and everyone begs for him to spare their lives. A servant announces that the young Master Go is passing through and tells everyone to get out of the way. The young master looks around and fixes his gaze on a person in the middle of the crowd. With a smile, he orders his men to bring him the beautiful maiden he just saw. A man and a woman prepare to fight, saying they would rather perish than fulfill his wishes. The woman holds her sword firmly, determined to protect herself and her companion. The muscular guards surround the couple and say the young master want a word with them. The woman realizes that the beautiful maiden he was talking about was actually her companion. The man is embarrassed while the woman decides to teach the playboy a lesson. The young master smiles wickedly and prepares for the confrontation that is about to happen. Annoyed, he orders his men to teach a lesson to the insolent little woman who challenged him. The guards advance, and the woman prepares to fight all of them at the same time. She dodges their attacks and wonders what kind of strange technique they're using. From a rooftop, our protagonist watches the scene with a smile on his face. In the blink of an eye, he jumps down and lands right in the middle of the commotion. To everyone's surprise, he quickly knocks out the young master and kidnaps him, leaving everyone in shock. The threatened young man tells the boy to let him go as his father is the lord of Yinxing City. Our hero simply responds with a loud and carefree, "So what?" completely unfazed. The young master says his father will arrive and that he'll wish he was gone when that happens. The protagonist gets excited by the news and sees it as a great opportunity for him. He thinks that being taken out by the city lord himself will raise his passing rating. A system screen pops up showing that his estimated passing rating for heroism could go up. He realizes the system agrees with his idea and feels confident to move forward with a wicked smile on his face. He prepares to put his plan into action. The man thanks the hero for his help, but warns him to flee while he can from the danger. Our protagonist ignores the warning and continues to hold the young master tightly. The woman is confused by the hero's attitude and doesn't understand what he's doing. He threatens to take out the hostage if anyone moves, and the young master pleads for his life. The young man gets annoyed with the hostage giving up so easily and pressures him even more. He yells at the young master not to give in and to call his father to the scene immediately. The sound of approaching horses announces the arrival of reinforcements for the young master. An imposing man on horseback arrives at the scene to everyone's surprise. The young master shouts for his father, and our hero notices that Gon looks very strong. Annoyed by the noise, our protagonist tells the hostage to shut up right now. He feels the immense pressure of Gaian's presence and senses his great martial skill. The city lord notes that the boy has impressive strength even without internal power. With a swift move, he leaps from his horse and prepares to attack the kidnapper. He charges forward with a purple aura emanating from his body, ready for the battle to begin. Our hero carefully watches his opponent's movements, preparing for the confrontation. The purple energy intensifies, and he feels suffocated as if he's being crushed. The pressure is so strong that he starts having trouble breathing and asks him to stop. The city lord stops his attack and stands there watching the young man with a serious gaze. The city lord is impressed by the young man's courage in being able to speak under his pressure. He asks the young man not to be impulsive and says they can talk to resolve the situation. Our hero is confused by the apology and wonders how he's going to make him fight like this. He sees that the passing rating hasn't dropped and realizes there's still a chance to get it. The couple is outraged by the apology, and Guyan offers compensation in silver. They realize they are in his territory and can't do much against the city lord. The woman apologizes for her husband's slip-ups and tries to de-escalate the tense situation. Some people in the crowd comment that it's better to avoid more trouble with the young master. Annoyed, our protagonist shouts Guyan's name, drawing his attention. He questions if the city lord thinks a little money and apology solves everything. The young man lists the young master's crimes and says he's used to cleaning up his messes. With a serious look, he says the young master must pay for his actions with his own life. Guyan realizes the boy won't yield to threats and that the situation is getting complicated. He asks what the young man wants to release his son and tries to negotiate a peaceful solution. Our hero says that getting what he wants to release the hostage is very simple. With a weak smile, he says that unless he himself passes on, he won't let the young master go. He then forcefully throws the hostage away to the surprise of everyone present. The couple is shocked by the stranger's actions who risked his own life to defend them. The city lord says it seems they have nothing more to discuss and prepares to fight. He charges forward at high speed to attack our hero, who prepares for the final confrontation. With a determined look, our hero readies himself for the city lord's final attack. Guyan advances with his sword at high speed towards our protagonist. The young master is thrown far away and hits the ground with the impact of the launch. Our hero is caught by an older man and immobilized with no chance of escape. He celebrates having achieved his first high rating passing from the system. The city lord approaches and asks for the name of the boy who challenged him. He introduces himself as Kiyomu and challenges the city lord to take him out if he wants to. Guyan is impressed by the young man's courage and acknowledges his bravery before him. To everyone's surprise, the city lord orders the older man to release the boy. He praises Kiyomu's courage and invites him to serve in the army at his palace. Our hero cries in despair as the script didn't go as he expected and his plan failed. The young master approaches his father and complains about the humiliation he just went through. Losing patience, Guyan slaps his son and scolds him for his behavior. He orders his guards to take the young master back home and punishes him severely. Guyan holds the re of his horse and prepares to leave. After resolving the situation, he tells Kiyomu that if he decides to, he can report to the palace at any time. Our protagonist is left petrified and confused by the unexpected turn of events. People comment that the city lord is reasonable and that the hero was lucky. A giant beaver appears and complains about the chaos and how the city lord didn't take him out. The system's passing rating drops back to Clough, and our hero laments the failure of his plan. He notices the longevity talisman is glowing and his passing rating continues to rise. The young man realizes that if he passes on now, he can still get a high rating and has a brilliant idea. The people he helped begin to thank him with gifts and bows. The couple he defended bows in gratitude for his bravery and unexpected help. He understands that he is now seen as a hero and no longer as a mere unknown soldier. The young man realizes that the system's purpose is to increase his fame and notoriety through acts of bravery. He concludes that if he keeps trying to pass on like a hero, he will become stronger and more famous. And when he finally passes on, his rating will be glorious and of high quality in the system. The couple is confused by the young man's sudden change of mood as he starts singing happily. Elsewhere, the young master complains in pain as his face is squeezed tightly. He questions why his father didn't punish the villain and instead wants to recruit him into the army. Guyan tells his son not to worry and that he doesn't need to rush things. He explains that the people's resentment was obvious and that taking him out would tarnish his image. By recruiting him, he calms public resentment and also gains a reputation for being merciful. He punishes his rebellious son and confines in the palace for a month with no permission to leave. Guyan reveals that the emperor might visit the region and wants to prevent his son from getting involved in something fatal. The young master gets excited about the news of the emperor's visit and questions its truthfulness. His father warns him that the emperor's location would never be revealed to avoid assassins. The son asks if Ki Mu will accept the invitation to join the city's defense. Guyan says it doesn't matter if he accepts or not, as there are other ways to deal with him. Guyan thinks of using the mountain bandits to eliminate the young man in a battle. On a rooftop, the woman questions why he still wants to join the city guard. The young man says it's likely a trap, and that he's going to the palace anyway. The woman notices the young man's determination to risk his own life for his goals. She decides to teach him a powerful technique to help him on his dangerous journey. She explains that it's a secret martial art of the Kia family that instantly boosts power. The demonic liberation technique is revealed, and the young man holds the book with great interest. With his eyes sparkling, he gets excited to learn that something so incredible actually exists. She warns him that he first needs to develop internal power to use the technique until his end. The woman praises his heroic spirit and says his progress will be faster than others. She smiles softly, happy to see the young man's enthusiasm to learn and grow stronger. She says she gave him the technique in the hope that he'll have a chance to survive. With a confident smile, the young man says he understands and is ready for the challenge ahead. He hugs the book with a goofy smile, while the women sigh at his excitement. At the training grounds of the in-city guard, our hero prepares for what's to come. He holds a spear firmly and gets into position to begin his training as a guard. With a quick movement, he charges forward with the spear in hand, showing his skill with the weapon. He thinks that spearmen have always had bad luck, and hopes his will be different. Some guards comment on Kia Mu, finding him average and a practitioner of extreme strength. They make fun of the young man, saying he won't last long on the battlefield. He learned a new skill, but hasn't yet followed the path of passing away and leveling up. Someone calls him chief, and he turns to see who is speaking to him at that moment. A man approaches and asks if he wants to buy some martial techniques he has. Other guards make fun of the seller for his yellow teeth, but he doesn't care about the teasing. The seller offers a body-hardening technique, and the young man is interested in the protection. A bearded monk advises our hero to ask old Huang about the technique before buying. With a side smile, the seller reveals that the technique he has is the Iron Shield. An image illustrates the technique as a special protection for the user's rear. Our protagonist says he wants the technique, and that protection in that area is crucial. The man offers the technique as a gift and tells him his wife was a victim of the young master. He gets closer and whispers the tragic story of how his family was affected by the cruelty. The seller says his wife survived but remains weak and that the young man avenged him. Our hero says he doesn't need thanks and that he will reward him for his help in the future. Another guard approaches and informs that Captain Chu wants to speak with him at that moment. With a smile on his face, he prepares for another challenge on his journey to get stronger. In the military camp, 110 stands out among the others with flags and drums around it. Captain Chu explains that there's a bold bandit named Song in the mountains to the east. He points on a map to the location of the bandit who has declared himself king of that region. The captain is annoyed by the bandit's audacity and considers it a bad joke. Our hero looks closely at the map and the flag representing the self-proclaimed king. The captain says that Songy has committed hundreds of crimes in just 6 months in the east. He cries with rage as he remembers the women who were victims of the cruel bandits. Our hero is furious and says that this group of bandits needs to be eliminated immediately. The captain agrees and says he will dispatch a battalion of 1,000 soldiers for the mission. He praises the young man's courage and invites him to be the leader of the vanguard on the mission. Our protagonist clashes hands with determination and prepares for the challenge ahead. With a war cry, he accepts the mission without a second's hesitation. He walks through the camp, thinking about the responsibility he has just taken on. He reflects on being chosen as the vanguard leader in a battalion of 1,000 soldiers. The young man smiles and realizes that the city lord has finally made his move with this excuse. With a determined smile, he says it's time to turn his departure into something valuable. A shadow lurks outside a tent, watching the movements within. The captain wonders if the young man is naive or overly confident to accept the mission. 5 days later, our hero observes the eastern mountain, ready for his new mission. The soldier Huang offers to be his guide, saying he knows the area well and where the thieves are. The young man agrees and tells the man to hide behind him if anything dangerous happens. Moved, the guide says the chief is the kindest man he has ever met in his life. The protagonist shouts that it's an order as he can't let him ruin his chance to pass on. Hidden in the tall grass, a sharp blade waits patiently for its next victim. The guide makes small talk and asks the young man what he was like when he was 15 years old. He replies that he was taken out by the butcher Yong and tells the man to shut up and lead the way. Suddenly, something flies past them in the tall grass, slightly startling the guide. Immediately after, a shower of arrows is fired in their direction, sending the man into a panic. To save the guide, our protagonist kicks him forcefully out of the path of the arrows. The young man positions himself right in front to be hit, while the other man lands safely on ground. With a smile on his face, he uses his spear to defend against some of the arrows coming his way. As he gets hit, he complains that TV shows lied to him, and a soldier shouts his name in shock. Soon after, several masked bandits jump out of the grass and attack the fallen guy. Even with arrows in his body, the protagonist manages to move and protect the man from the blow. He gets excited seeing the immortality lock glow and knowing his passing will be of high quality. With his spear glowing, he shouts for the other soldiers to follow him as he will lead the way. The young man then charges forward with a smile on his face, ready for the battle about to begin. With an agile move, he manages to defend one of his comrades from a surprise enemy attack. One of the soldiers cries out in pain as he's caught off guard by an enemy. To hit the soldier, the bandit pierces through his own comrade without hesitation. The blow lands squarely on the man, who has no time to react to the attack. With a smile on his face, our hero charges forward and takes down several enemies at once. The other soldiers are impressed by the young man's ferocity in battle. Even after being hit by another arrow, he taunts the enemies, asking if that's all they've got. Soon after, he asks for some medicine to stop the bleeding from his shoulder. The guide thanks him for blocking the arrows, and the young man gets very annoyed by that. He complains that the thieves were too weak and that he'll have to try harder. The monk scolds him and asks if this is how he repays the guide's help. With a smile, he asks if the monk also has something to give him. The monk promises a gift and tells him to help finish off the thieves first. He observes the valley and notices that the place is full of traps and ambushes. The young man asks the guide if that valley happens to have a name. On a nearby tree, some strange symbols are carved into the wood. He names the place Fallen Tree Valley and already thinks about where would be a good spot to pass on. The captain arrives and questions why the young man isn't at the front leading the way. The captain accuses him of being scared and orders him to help in the battle anyway. He thinks that if the boy disobeys, he can take him out and complete the Lord's task. To the captain's surprise, the young man says he will obey and prepares to advance. With a cynical smile, the young man thanks the captain and thinks this is a better way to go. With a wicked smile, he promises to get revenge on the captain as soon as he gets stronger. Soon after, his smile vanishes and his face takes on a very serious expression. Suddenly, a horde of bandits emerges and charges to attack the soldiers with full force. He yells for his comrades to run, as there are too many thieves and they don't stand a chance. Terrified, the soldiers start to flee the battlefield without a second thought. Meanwhile, our hero stays behind and fights the bandits alone to protect his friends. He yells for the soldiers to run and says it's a direct order from their chief. The guide and the monk are confused by the young man's actions but continue to watch the fight. From the top of the cliff, the captain watches everything and yells for the soldiers not to flee the fight. He threatens that anyone who refuses to fight will be taken out on the spot. The young man understands the situation and realizes the captain wants everyone to perish there with him. Inspired by their chief, the soldiers decide to return and fight together until the end of the battle. The battle resumes and swords clash forcefully against the soldier's armor. Our hero grabs a bandit and threatens him not to get in his way. The guide says they can't let the chief fall alone in that bloody battle. Annoyed, the young man yells at them to stop talking nonsense if they don't want to get hurt. Then he charges alone towards the enemies while the guide desperately shouts his name. All beaten up, he thinks he will do what others cannot and say what they don't have the courage to. Immediately after, an arrow strikes him right in the neck and he passes on once more. Surrounded by enemies, our hero is on the ground, but he doesn't seem the least bit worried. One of the bandits charges with his axe to deliver the final blow and end the fight. With a smile, he says he'll be the first to go as the immortality talisman glows. Soon after, the other bandits advance to attack the young man, all at the same time. With his spear, he hits one of the enemies with force in a very sensitive spot. He then yells at the bandits not to be cowards and to come fight him for real. With a gesture, he beckons the enemies to combat and taunts them even more. The young man screams for more and more challenges as he continues to fight relentlessly. Suddenly, he feels a new strength emerging from within his body in the middle of the fight. This new strength is awakening, making him more and more powerful in battle. With a single blow, he manages to send several enemies flying with ease. His eyes glow with red energy, showing his new level of power. Watching from a distance, the captain is surprised to see that the boy has awakened an aura. He thinks that a warrior who awakens his aura, so young, must be very talented. The captain is confused by the young man's strength and wonders how he got so strong. He sees the red aura and thinks the young man is using some kind of explosive martial art. With a smile, he understands that the young man used a technique of no return and is about to perish. He is certain the boy won't survive and that his plan succeeded in the end. Meanwhile, the guide cries desperately as he watches his chief fight to the end for them. Our hero's spear falls to the ground and sticks into the earth as the soldiers watch. With a furious roar, he tells everyone to get out of his way and creates a shockwave. Even all beaten up, the young man remains standing while his comrades are shocked. With his face wounded, he says no one will cross that line as long as he lives. Seeing that he is alone, one of the bandits orders everyone to advance without any fear. And so, the horde of enemies charges towards our hero for the final confrontation. Even in that desperate situation, our protagonist still had a smile on his face. The blade of Asai approaches, but is blocked by our hero's spear just in time. He continues to fight bravely and takes down several enemies at once with his spear. The young man is hit several times, but his eyes glow with power, and he doesn't give up. Watching the scene, his comrades cry with sadness and anger at their chief's sacrifice. More arrows hit the young man's body, who endures the pain and continues to fight bravely. A hand catches a blood-stained leaf that falls, symbolizing the hero's tragic end. Standing on a pile of bodies, the protagonist faces his comrades with a victorious look. Even with several arrows in his body, he stands firm like a statue of a great hero. Soon after, he looks up at the cliff where the captain was watching everything from a distance. The captain lets out a mocking laugh, as if he were satisfied with the outcome of the fight. Inspired, the soldiers shout that they will not disappoint their chief and charge into battle. The captain also joins the fight and advances with his sword in hand for combat. His horse tramples over the bodies of the fallen bandits without any mercy. Passing by the fallen hero, the captain looks at him and the young man lets out a faint laugh. The captain looks at the young man's soul and says, "The mission is over and they are returning to the city." The guide questions the decision to return as they haven't destroyed the bandits' base yet. The captain justifies himself by saying the terrain is dangerous and orders everyone to retreat immediately. The soldiers decide to take the chief's body to give an explanation to his blind sister. While his friends hold a vigil for him, our hero begins to resurrect somewhere else. With a new look and more mature, the young man comes back to life with his spear in hand. The system screen shows his Class B passing rating and the rewards he earned. He is shocked to see that a single Class B passing increased his mastery of the technique so much. A Class B passing is equivalent to 20 years of training with 150% dedication. Now the young man trains with his spear and imagines what a class of passing would be like. With his new skill, he practices his spear movements with incredible precision. His aim is so good that he can stop his spear just millimeters from an ant. With a smile, he realizes that a high-quality passing brings many extra benefits. The captain feels a chill, and the young man says he's going to thank his brother for taking him out. Meanwhile, the soldiers march back to the city carrying their chief's body. They find a tree with the words the young man wrote, and the captain is confused. The soldiers realize it was the chief who left that message for them at the site. The monk cries and says the chief knew about the ambush, but couldn't refuse the orders. The guide also cries, saying that his chief sacrificed himself for all of them on that mission. Suddenly, the captain approaches annoyed and asks what they are carrying. The soldiers kneel as the captain approaches them with a very serious look. The guide explains that they are carrying the body of Chief Kiyomu for his funeral. The captain repeats the young man's name to himself with a thoughtful expression. Angrily, the guide wonders if the jerk will forbid them from taking the body, but the captain says that Kiyomu passed with honor and should not be left behind. Annoyed, the guide thinks it's all the captain's fault while he promises to take care of the funeral. The man thinks all the credit went to him and that he should thank the impulsive young man. He thinks that now that the order has been fulfilled, he might even get a promotion from the Lord. With a wicked smile, he remembers that the young man had a blind and helpless sister. He then whispers that she doesn't need to worry as he will take very good care of her. Suddenly, the captain is caught by surprise and blood starts coming out of his mouth. A spear pierces him from behind in a swift and completely unexpected attack by all. The man falls lifeless from his horse while one of the soldiers screams in pain from the attack. Lying on the ground, he reaches out his hand and sees a mysterious silhouette on top of the cliff. To everyone's astonishment, our protagonist rises from the ashes with a new look. The captain's eye fills with terror as he realizes who the man who attacked him is. And so, Lieutenant Chu meets his end at the hands of our hero, who has taken his revenge. One of the soldiers screams desperately, warning everyone that they are under a new attack. Confused, they wonder who the enemy is, and the guide remembers the shadow on the mountain. A soldier then reveals the face of the body they were carrying, and it wasn't the chief's. The guide and the monk talk, and realize it's an ambush by the thieves. A soldier shouts that the thieves are back and that they are very strong. Someone orders a retreat, but another soldier is hit by a fatal spear. Our hero watches everything from a distance with a smile. Seeing the soldiers flee, he thinks that he has now surpassed Class 8, as the lieutenant didn't even see the attack. The demonic explosion technique he used is perfect for his style. He gets excited as the soldiers will hunt the assassin and he might get taken out. Suddenly, he hears someone shout that the thieves are back and is surprised. Annoyed, the young man complains that the soldiers are running away and ruining his plan. He then realizes that the voice shouting is the guide's and gets confused. Angered, he complains that he sacrificed himself and the guide won't let him pass on in peace. With a smile on his face, he thinks he can still continue with his plan. Looking at the bushes, he sees the hidden thieves and finds it convenient. He challenges the bandits, saying he won't bow down and they can come at him. The young man strikes his departed, poos for the thieves to remember him from the fight. The bandits call him a ghost and run away while he asks about their injuries. He introduces himself as Kiyamu's brother and says he has come to avenge his passing. Confused, the young man corrects himself and says he will avenge the brother who is taken out by them. One of the thieves says not to believe him as he is a ghost who wants to get them. The bandits flee in desperation and beg the ghost to stop following them. Suddenly, the bandits meet up with their group, and one of them is surprised. The thieves' chief emerges with an imposing red aura, frightening everyone. The bandits run to him and ask for help as there is a ghost after them. Our hero realizes it's the king of thieves and gets excited for a class of passing. With a wicked smile, he shouts that he has come to avenge his brother, Sony. In an instant, the thieves' chief appears right in front of our protagonist. The young man can barely follow the movement and is surprised by the speed. He faces the man in front of him and asks if he is the king of thieves. The man lets out a mocking laugh and calls him a warrior. Ironically, suddenly, the man's hood falls, revealing a young and very different face. He introduces himself as Wong Song-hai, and our hero is shocked by his appearance. The young man has a drop of sweat running down his face, not knowing what to say. The thieves' chief lets out a laugh and seems to be enjoying the situation. Suddenly, he coughs up blood, and the young man realizes he is weak and just pretending. One of the bandits tells the chief that the young man took out the lieutenant and introduced himself as a brother. The leader of the thieves seems interested in the story and looks at the young man with a serious gaze. He praises Chief Kyo and LT, Unk and GT's courage and says he respects him for it. Then he invites him to join him and achieve great things together. The young man accepts the invitation and joins the group of thieves from the Eastern Mountain. Our hero is confused by the proposal and wonders if he wants to recruit him. The thieves' chief says that with so much conflict, it's hard to know what's right or wrong. The young man nods in agreement and says he's absolutely right about what he said. Suddenly, the angelic version of the leader is knocked out by our furious protagonist. He shouts that a great warrior doesn't live by stealing and won't hide in the mountains. Meanwhile, the thieves' chief and his group walk calmly through the forest. His men complain about the young man's attitude and say he's asking for a beating. Our hero then challenges the chief, telling him to come at him if he's angry. The man tells everyone to stop the act and gestures with his hand for them. He then asks why so many thieves have ended up in his lands and challenges him. The young man says the governors are tigers, and that's why everyone fled to the mountain. The leader nods and repeats the phrase about the governors being tigers. He praises the young man's wisdom and says the mountain is a safe haven for everyone. Holding his sword, he introduces himself again and says he wants to protect the mountain. He invites the young man to join him and fight for a better life for the people. The young man stands still and tense as the thieves' chief points a sword at him. With a serious and determined look, our protagonist refuses the leader's offer. The two stare at each other, and the chief asks if he would come to their base to see what they do. The young man accepts the invitation, but thinks that if he refuses again, he won't get out of there alive. With a smile, he gets excited at the idea of passing on one more time to level up. 15 minutes later, they arrive at a large base built in the middle of the mountain. The young man looks around and says the place looks more like a village than a thieves' base. He is surprised to see elderly people and children walking calmly around the place and questions it. The leader explains that they're all homeless people they found and brought to the village. He says that the city's prosperity is a fade and many were driven out by the Lord. The young man asks him to tell him more about the divines, and the leader questions him back. With a funny face, the young man is surprised that the leader knows his immortality fist. The man laughs and says the technique is unique and that it's not just the martial arts faction that knows it. With a smile, he invites the young man to talk in private elsewhere. They enter a wooden building and head to a more private room. Inside the place, a large statue of a bearded man impresses our hero. The leader explains that it's not a statue, but someone who trained until he became divine. The young man thinks he wasted time training as a warrior instead of becoming a sage. The thieves' chief reveals that divines and humans are of the same race, but they don't admit it. They hire humans to cultivate divine plants, but never truly bless them. The most ironic part is that many humans spend their lives serving the divines without realizing it. Our hero gets angry with the exploitation and is reminded of the capitalism of his world. He realizes that to get a better rating, he needs to challenge a divine being and gets excited. Suddenly, a spear is thrown with force and sticks into the temple floor with a thud. Our protagonist jumps and positions himself to attack the statue of the divine being. With a furious shout, he says he was born free and no one will place themselves above him. With a wicked smile, he challenges the statue and asks to be struck by lightning. The leader tries to stop him, but the young man charges forward to destroy the statue anyway. With a confident smile, our protagonist prepares for the final blow against the statue. The thieves' chief yells for him to stop, but it's already too late for anything. With a powerful punch, he hits the statue right in the chest with all his might. The man is relieved, but immediately after the statue's sword shatters from the blow. The entire statue starts to crack, and the leader looks worried at the scene. Soon after, the statue explodes into 1,000 pieces and the leader spits blood from the impact. Annoyed, the young man complains that the cursed thief dared to stop him from passing on as he wished. He questions the leader for using a sage technique to prevent him from meeting his end. The man says that destroying the statue could bring the revenge of the divine sages upon him. The young man gets excited at the news and asks to be struck by lightning right away. The leader is shaken by the young man's recklessness and says he will be more careful. The young man remembers that he never learned a sage technique and becomes thoughtful about it. The chief explains that martial arts strengthen the body and sage techniques strengthen the soul. He says that sages are powerful due to their strength and immortality, but martial artists are not. The path of martial arts is faster, and if there are more masters, they can win. Calmly, the young man tries to soothe the leader who is very worked up from the conversation. He realizes that the immortality fist is the solution to becoming a divine being. The young man says he will become a divine being soon, and the leader is shocked and confused. With a long nose, he asks if the leader thinks he has the talent to be divine. The man says that without a soul route, he has no chance of becoming a sage. Our hero hides behind a pillar and looks at the leader confused. He whispers and asks if mastering the iron crotch technique counts as a soul route. Suddenly, a golden light envelopes the young man and the thieves' leader who are surprised. The man is embarrassed and apologizes, saying he can't help with that tool. He tries to say goodbye, but our hero questions why he was trying to recruit him. The young man says the leader wants to change the world and that the small village is not his place. With his eyes gleaming, he threatens to reveal the base's location if he doesn't go with them. The man laughs and says he wouldn't do that and that they've already provoked the soldiers and are going to move. Our protagonist says goodbye and says he won't bother anyone with this anymore. He decides to accept the loss and return to the city to sort things out there. In a dark room, the woman with the blindfold carefully opens the door. A man says they are guard from a lord and have come to offer their thanks. They enter the room carrying a coffin, leaving the woman a bit confused. The woman laments being blind, but asks why Kia Mood didn't return with them. With a serious look, the guard repeats the young man's name in a cold and distant voice. With a wicked smile, he says the young man is gone and won't be coming home anymore. The woman is in shock and asks what he means by gone and what happened. With a quick gesture, the man grabs a book and prepares for the next step of his plan. With a wicked smile, the man shouts that he means the young man has passed on. The woman takes a step back and says she doesn't believe that's true at all. She states that Q wouldn't pass on as easily as he's saying. Suddenly, a hand grabs hers tightly, preventing her from closing the door. The man apologizes and says he forgot to mention that he brought the body with him. With a gentle touch, he holds her hand delicately and guides her to the coffin. He forces her to approach the coffin and asks her to confirm if it's him. The woman is forced to touch the face of the body in the coffin and is shocked by the scene. The man mocks her and says he won't describe the scene since she can't see. The body had over 50 wounds and the face was all bruised. With a touch, the woman realizes the body is not her brother's and pulls away. She screams that it's impossible and that everything is a big lie. The man says everything is fake and that even he himself is a lie to her. With a smile, he asked if she would feel better if he said it was a lie. Outside, the monk becomes enraged and says they've crossed the line with the woman. Furious, he says he's going to take out the jerk, but the guide stops him from advancing. The guide says they can't do anything as he is the son of the city lord. They decide to help bury the chief and leave some money for the sister. The man mocks the woman for not crying and provokes her even more with his words. With a smile, he says he'll give her something else and prepares for the next act. With a dark smile, he offers a stew made from the great warrior's liver to the woman. The woman screams in anger and disgust at the man's cruelty. Losing his patience, he orders his men to give her the soup anyway. The woman is surrounded by men, and the bowl of soup is offered to her by force. Suddenly, an old man's staff falls to the ground, drawing everyone's attention. The men hold the woman and prepare to force her to drink the contents. With a wicked smile, he pours the soup in her mouth and tells her to drink it all. One of the soldiers cries in anger at the scene, feeling helpless to intervene. Suddenly, the guide appears and drinks all the soup, saying it's delicious. The young master is furious and calls him trash for daring to steal his food. With a kick, he knocks over the soup bowl, which falls and spills on the floor. The guide apologizes and says his friend is a bit off and doesn't know what he's doing. With a grim look, the young master glares at the soldier with anger. The guide starts to feel sick and throws up all the soup he just drank. Suddenly, a mysterious voice praises the soup smell and catches everyone's attention. The young master turns around annoyed and asks who the intruder is that just showed up. To everyone's surprise, our protagonist reappears with a hat and a spear. The guide shouts the chief's name, emotional to see him alive and well. The woman is also surprised to hear the young man's name and can't believe her ears. The old man is also startled by the young man's appearance and stares at him with a serious look. The young master is in shock and shouts that it's impossible for the young man to be alive. He looks at the coffin and sees the body of the soldier he used to deceive everyone. The body in the coffin was all beaten up and looked identical to our heroes. With a laugh, our protagonist takes off his hat and faces the young master with a smile. In a swift move, he charges and attacks the young master forcefully with his spear. The young master's eye fills with fear as he sees the speed of the young man's attack. He manages to dodge the spear, just barely, and is startled by the force of the blow. The soldiers and the blindfolded woman are shocked by the scene they are witnessing. The woman is held by a guard as she watches the fight with attention and curiosity. The young master defends against the attacks, but our hero pressures him with several blows. With a cut on his hand, the young man doesn't give up and continues to fight with even more force. The young master is terrified by our hero's gaze, which looks demonic. The soldiers comment that maybe this isn't the real chief and that he is stronger. The old man questions the young man's identity and says his aura isn't that strong. With a serious look, he introduces himself as Kalen and says he is the young man's brother. With tears in his eyes, he says that Kiamu is his brother and he has come for revenge. With his eyes glowing red, he prepares for the final attack against the young master. With a red aura, he threatens to take everyone with him even if he perishes there. The old man challenges him and asks who he thinks he is to say such things. The young master shouts for the old man to run and says they'll come back later to settle things. The young master tries to flee but is caught by the soldiers who hold him tightly. The old man mutters something as our hero prepares for his next move. With his hand injured, the young man thinks he needs to prepare to pass on again. He says he will bury his brother in a mountain outside the city the next day. The old man gets the hint and realizes the young man will be out of the city tomorrow. Our hero complains of hunger, and the soldiers are shocked by his attitude. He then grabs the pot of soup and starts drinking the contents without a care. The soldiers shout for him not to drink the soup, as it's from his brother. With his mouth full, he makes a disgusted face, and the guide throws up a rainbow. The young man shows a piece of liver and says it's from a pig, not his brother. He pretends to cry and says he heard his brother met a tragic end and was missing organs. The woman touches him and he hides behind her, saying he had well. The young man is startled by her scent and realizes she is very close to him. He screams in embarrassment and the woman is confused, not understanding what happened. Suddenly, the young master screams that Kia Musu's ghost has appeared in the Gold clan. The Lord appears and asks what all the commotion is about and what he has learned this time. The old man apologizes and says they were paying their respects to the Kyo family. He mentions that the young man is a bit taller and older than the brother who passed away. The Lord says he is class 8 and not a major threat to them at the moment. He thinks the young man is not simple at all and that he needs to resolve this soon. With a dark look, the Lord orders the old man to take care of the young man and his companions. Our hero yawns as the blindfolded woman approaches him with a serious look. He looks at her with a confused expression and wonders what she is going to do now. The woman gets closer to him, and he is surprised by her unexpected action. With a scared look, he tries to back away and wonders what she is doing. To protect himself, the young man says he's already 28 years old and has 13 concubines at home. The woman looks at him with a serious and thoughtful expression as if analyzing the situation. She then calls him by his name, and the young man and the soldiers watch her attentively. He receives a bag of money from the governor, but finds the man's efficiency strange. The soldiers confirm that the money is from the governor and are happy with the help. With a smile, our hero realizes that the money actually belongs to the soldiers. He refuses the money and gives it back to the soldiers who are surprised by his action. The monk offers a martial arts book as a thank you gift to the young man. Excited, he takes the book and sees that it's another basic skill he needs to learn. The monk and the guide say their goodbyes and leave, leaving the young man alone with the woman. He says he is going to duel the Lord and hopes she will leave so as not to be affected. Suddenly, the woman approaches and whispers something in his ear, leaving him surprised. with their faces very close. The two exchange a few words in a secretive tone. The young man pulls back, startled, and says she is playing with fire with that attitude. With a JoJo-like pose, he prepares for what's to come and faces the challenge. He boasts about having mastered the iron bed technique and challenges her to a confrontation. The woman tells him to stop pretending and approaches with a serious and determined look. She says that even without seeing, she has already seen him and that the scent and voice are the same young man. With a smile, the young man realized he was right and that her last name is indeed Ning. She then asks how he managed to fool everyone and if he used makeup to do it. He tells her he was captured and met Wong, a sage who helped him escape. The young man remembers that she wanted to be a sage's disciple and questions her about it. She says she is blind and useless as a martial artist, and that's why she gave up on her dream. But now she realizes that maybe she can become a sage and follow a new path. The young man mocks her story and says it's the revenge cliché he already knows. She approaches him and calls him by name with a serious voice full of emotion. The woman asks him to stop and looks at him with a pleading and desperate expression. She says the Lord is a Class 6 warrior and that he won't stand chance. Annoyed, the young man thinks she is trying to steal his wish to pass on one more time. She says she can't bear to see him perish and that if he doesn't give it his all, he won't succeed. The woman reveals she is leaving the city to follow the path of the sages and will no longer fight. She hands him a book and says it's an internal ripple technique of the family. The woman reveals that this is the secret technique of the Kia family and asks him to accept it. With tears in his eyes, our protagonist is moved by the gift and her gesture. The woman feels awkward and says he didn't need to react in such an exaggerated way. The young man looks at the woman with a serious gaze, and she looks back at him without hesitation. He remembers a promise, and the woman is confused, not understanding what he wants. With a smile, he hands her a book and asks her to read some lines out loud. The young man says they both have a path to follow and that he will follow his own. With determination, he says he will carve his own path and will not give up on his goal. The woman looks at him with a serious expression, and he extends his hand to her in a gesture. She says she will wait for him at the temple outside the city for 7 days for an answer. The woman starts to say something, but is interrupted by a thoughtful silence. She then says that when he shows up, they will travel together to a new place. Our hero walks happily down the road, singing a song of farewell and joy. He carries a box of ashes and says he is burying himself and that the feeling is wonderful. With a shovel, he digs a hole and complains that his brother left him alone in this world. Watching from a distance, the old man sees him crying and digging a hole in the ground with the shovel. The man prepares to attack the young man and puts on his gloves with a wicked look. With a swift blow, he charges to attack our hero, who is distracted by the grave. Suddenly, the box of ashes opens and a white powder hits the old man's face. He screams in pain as he feels the ashes get into his eyes and is blinded. The old man asks what that is, and our hero reveals it's his brother's ashes. With a smile, our protagonist says they are working as a team for revenge. In a swift move, he hits the old man with a blow and sends him to the underworld. The old man mocks the young man for being a Class 8 kid and attacks him with his scythe. Even blind, he manages to fight on equal terms, and the two exchange fierce blows. With a wicked smile, our hero breaks his own bones to counterattack. With the impact of the blow, both are thrown far from each other on the cliff. Our protagonist falls to the ground, bleeding, but doesn't seem to care about his injuries. With a smile, he thanks his brother for helping him with the ashes at the right moment. The old man recovers from the blow and stands on a rock, observing the young man. He says the two brothers dare to challenge the Lord, and this is the result. The man prepares to return to the city and leave the young man there to perish. Suddenly, he feels a presence behind him and turns around, startled by the surprise. Our hero reappears once more and calls him an old thief who dares to attack his family. The man is surprised to see another identical young man and prepares to fight both of them. With a red aura, our protagonist activates his heavenly demon technique. The old man is startled to see the technique and realizes he will use the same move as before. With a powerful kick, our hero charges and hits the old man squarely with his attack. He asks if the whole family has a death wish and says he can take him out. Our protagonist is hit by a powerful blow and falls to the ground lifeless. The old man sighs in relief and says that was all there was to it and the fight is over. Suddenly, our hero reappears behind him and greets him with a frightening alone. The old man turns around in shock and is hit by a slap to the face that leaves him stunned. With a smile, our hero introduces himself as a new Kiamu who has been reborn from the ashes. The old man panics and wonders if he is a demon, a ghost, or a sage. He looks in the young man's eyes and sees a demonic reflection that terrifies him. With his hand on his chest, he says it's all an illusion and that it can't be real. Our protagonist advances and mocks the old man for thinking he will break his resistance. With his heavenly demon technique, he attacks the old man with all his might. The man wonders why the entire family starts a fight with that technique. With a powerful kick, our hero hits the old man squarely and sends him flying. He attacks with several punches, and the old man can barely defend against the rapid blows. The man dodges a punch just barely and is startled by the young man's speed. With a precise blow, our protagonist hits the old man's face with full force. He says goodbye with a C. As the old man falls to the ground, unresponsive, the man screams that it's all fake and that what is happening can't be real. The red aura envelopes the old man's body as the technique consumes him completely. He breaks into a cold sweat and feels pressure by our protagonist's overwhelming force. Furious, he tells the young man to stop playing with him and prepares to attack. The two charge at each other and shout for the other to perish in the confrontation. The old man proves to be a true master, and the two exchange fierce and deadly blows. Our hero attacks with everything he's got, but the old man defends with mastery and skill. With a final blow, the young man forcefully drives a piece of wood into the old man's chest. With a wicked smile, our hero says he won't spare him anymore and attacks. The blow hits the old man's chest squarely, and he feels the sharp pain of the impact. With a swift move, our protagonist spins and hits the old man with a kick. The man is thrown far away, and our hero falls to the ground, bleeding heavily. The old man gets up and says he will hunt him forever, no matter what happens. Our protagonist kicks a stone and prepares for the next attack with a smile. With the old man in his arms, he says he will tell him a horror story. He reveals that his revives have been renewed and that he now has 5 chances to come back. The old man screams for him to let go as they both fall from the cliff in a free fall. Our hero bites the old man's ear, who screams in pain and agony from the attack. With his hands tied, the young man doesn't give up and continues to fight with all his might. With his eyes red with rage, he bites the old man's neck with fury and determination. The man feels the blow, and our hero is hit by a stab in the back. Even without his hands, he says he still has his feet and won't let him escape. The old man feels sleep coming on and realizes he is slowly losing consciousness. Our hero counts the seconds as they both fall to their certain end in the abyss. The man says he doesn't have as many things as he thought and says goodbye to life. The two hit the ground hard and the earth cracks with the impact of the fall. Our protagonist wakes up and sees the old man's body next to him, lifeless and still. A system screen appears and the young man celebrates the mission successful completion. He realizes he still can't manipulate his aura and needs to evolve more. The system congratulates him and reveals a secret reward, the choice of rebirth point. With a wicked smile, he decides he will invade the Lord's property to get his revenge. But first, he decides to go back to the city and change clothes so as not to be recognized. In the Go Mansion's kitchen, a cook tastes the soup while a shadow watches him. Suddenly, a mysterious woman invades the kitchen and attacks all the cooks with kicks. Our protagonist appears next and prepares for the next step of his plan. He thanks the chefs and says he's going to eat something delicious as he's never celebrated his revivals. With chopsticks, he grabs a portion of noodles and eats with a smile of satisfaction. The young master calls him a clever dog and says he knew he would come for the food. He thinks he'll be discovered immediately if he acts now, as there are guards everywhere. With a smile, he wonders why he would fear passing on if he can revive at any moment. Suddenly, the kitchen door is kicked open with force, and the young master enters furiously. With his dog by his side, he shouts for then open the door and glares at our hero with anger. He mocks the dog and says the only thing it knows how to do is eat. The guards outside hear the noise and prepare to enter the kitchen. Our protagonist knocks out the young master with a quick blow, leaving him unconscious. With a dark aura, he faces the dog, which watches him with fear and curiosity. The young master orders his demonic hound to attack the intruder who invaded his kitchen. To his surprise, our hero pets the dog and calls him a good boy. With the spear in his mouth, the young master is terrified by the situation. Our hero interrogates him and asks how many warriors with a class there are in the mansion. He then asks if the young man knows anything about the martial arts faction. The young master is shocked and asks how he knows about all these things. With a threatening look, our protagonist tells him to shut up and answer quickly. The young man says that the Crimson Emperor might come to the city within a month. With a smile, he offers to take our hero to his father's office. Our protagonist thinks he wants to trick him and lead him into a trap. He threatens him, saying he will find a letter anyway if he lies. The young master tries to defend himself from the blade and begs the young man to spare him. With red eyes, our hero asks what the secret technique he mentioned is. The young man reveals that the manual's name is Guide to Mastery in Legendary Martial Arts. With his hand on the young master's neck, our hero prepares for the next step. He carries him on his shoulders and tells him to show the way, without trying any funny business. Arriving at the Lord's office, our protagonist sits at the desk and observes. The young master says that no one dares to enter there without his father's permission. Our hero flips through the book and wonders what cultivating mystical techniques is. He is surprised by how thin the book is and asks if it's the whole book. The young man says the rest is in the forbidden room and offers to take him there. With a serious look, our protagonist warns him not to think about tricking him again. The young master opens the door and guides our hero through the mansion's corridors. They walk together as our protagonist keeps the young man under his control. The young master thinks he needs to get rid of the young man, but can't see his expressions. He knows that only his father and Join can save him in this entire city. With sweat dripping, he thinks that if his father is in the forbidden room, he will survive. Suddenly, he sees a man and calls his name with a hopeful look. The man introduces himself as Join and greets the young master with respect. Desperate, the young master tries to ask for help with his eyes, but the man doesn't understand. The three of them stare at each other in a tense silence, and our hero realizes something is wrong. The man notices the exchange of glances and understands the young master's message. With a smile, he tells the young master not to flirt with him as he is married. Suddenly, a sword pierces through the young master's chest to everyone's astonishment. The man is shocked to see the scene and can't believe what is happening. Our protagonist holds the young master and looks at him with a cold and distant gaze. The man shouts that there's an assassin and that the young master has been gravely injured. Annoyed, he charges with his sword in hand to attack the young master's assassin. With a wicked smile, our protagonist prepares for the confrontation to come. With a kick, he throws the young master's body, and the man catches him in his arms. Our protagonist observes the scene with a serious look and prepares for the next step. With a determined look, he faces the man and prepares for the battle that is about to begin. Suddenly, the city lord appears with a purple aura and a dark look. He advances slowly and faces our hero, who observes him with attention and a smile. The lord looks at the young man with a disdainful gaze and prepares for battle. With a smile, our protagonist says that he finally decided to act and faces him. His eyes glow with an intense blue light as he prepares for the confrontation. The two charge at each other and exchange powerful blows with their weapons. With a strong blow, the lord throws our hero far away, who crashes through a roof. He lands safely on the ground and prepares for the enemy's next attack. With blood in his mouth, he challenges the lord and tells him to take him out if he can. The man charges with his spear, and our hero defends himself with his weapon with a smile. The two exchange several blows, and the fight intensifies with each move. With a powerful blow, the lord manages to disarm our protagonist with a spear. The young man's spear falls to the ground and sticks into the earth with the force of the blow. With a smile, he boasts about having mastered his technique and that he won't perish. The lord advances with a powerful punch and hits our hero's face with full force. Furious, he asks why the young man took out his son without any mercy. With a smile, our protagonist says that if evil is not punished, the heavens are biased. He then prepares for the next move and faces the lord with a defiant look. With a furious shout, he says that if the heavens won't punish him, he will do it himself. The man falls to the ground, defeated, and looks at the young man with surprise and fear. With a powerful attack, our hero charges and prepares for the final blow. With a wicked smile, he faces the lord and prepares for the decisive battle. The two exchange fierce blows, and the young man's spear clashes with the lord's defense. Our hero's sword approaches the lord, who catches it with his bare hands. With a red aura, our protagonist attacks with all his strength and determination. The lord threatens that he will hang the young man's body for 10 days as a tribute to his son. With a powerful kick, he throws our hero, who falls to the ground, unresponsive. The people in the crowd cheer for the lord as they watch the fight attentively. With blood in his mouth, our protagonist begs to pass on quickly and in the pain. With a wicked smile, he faces the lord and challenges him with a look of contempt. The man draws his sword and prepares for the final blow against our hero. With a swift move, he attacks, and our protagonist tries to defend himself with the spear. The blow hits the young man's hands, which are destroyed by the force of the attack. The man says the lord hates brutes and that he will destroy every part of the young man. With his sword in hand, he prepares to attack our protagonist's legs. With a precise blow, he hits the young man's legs, who screams in pain from the wound. Our hero realizes the old man just wants to torture him and won't let him be satisfied. He begins to recite a poem, and the Lord looks at him with surprise and anger. The man asks why he is in a good mood, even in that terrible situation. Furious, he attacks him and asks how he dares to compose a poem in such a situation. With a wicked smile, he activates his heavenly demon technique once more. With red eyes, he charges and the Lord prepares for the attack with his sword. The man is surprised to see that the young man held back his ability until the last moment. With a swift move, our hero dodges the blow and attacks the Lord with a kick. He falls towards a well, and one of the guards is startled by the scene he sees. The Lord realizes the young man is fleeing and is furious with his action. Our protagonist falls head first into the well and passes on once more from the impact. The man is shocked by the young man's stubbornness and doesn't understand his self-destructive attitude. With a strong blow, the Lord drives his sword into the ground with anger and frustration. He complains that even with so many people, they let the trash escape from the mansion. Furious, he orders his soldiers to go to the Kia family and spare no one. He calls Joe Win and orders him to go down to find the young man's body in the well. The man agrees and prepares to carry out his lord's order immediately. Meanwhile, by the river outside the city, the thieves' leader and his group are walking. Suddenly, one of them spots something strange floating in the water and approaches to see. They find our hero's body floating in the river and are surprised by the scene. The leader orders his men to fish him out and get him out of the water to see if he's alive. 3 days later, the news of the young master's passing spreads through the city. A wanted poster with our hero's face is put up on the city walls. Almost everyone prays for the hero and wishes for him to survive the danger. The woman thinks the young man will be fine as he received help from the sage last time. Suddenly, our hero wakes up all bandaged and wonders why he didn't pass on. He feels a terrible pain in his wounds and realizes he is all broken. The thieves' leader and his group observe him, and the young man is confused by the situation. The man says it's his duty to save a hero and that he doesn't need any thanks. Our protagonist questions why he saved him, and the leader tells him to rest. Annoyed, the young man wonders if he wants to take care of him until he fully recovers. He asks the leader to give up and not save him as he doesn't want to be a burden to anyone. The man thinks he is a true hero who cares about others. With a strong grip, he holds the young man's hand who screams in pain from the gesture. The leader asks him not to give up and to keep fighting for his life with hope. He begins to heal the young man with his technique, but ends up hurting him even more. Our protagonist prays to escape the torture of the man who is ending his life. 2 days later, the leader mourns the young man's passing and calls him a true hero. Our hero's soul looks at the village and shouts his brother's name with sadness. The system screen appears and shows his new abilities and rewards for passing on. He is relieved to have finally passed on, even though it took a while. The attempt to save him made his demise inevitable and increased his passing index. He advances to Class 8 and feels the Dansen cyclone emerging in his body. His abilities in mastery and martial arts increased as if he had trained for decades. He admires his muscles and says the system is much more efficient than he imagined. With a smile, he walks through the forest and prepares for the next step of his plan. Suddenly, some men appear in the bushes and surround him with a suspicious look. He is startled by their appearance and asks who they are and what they want with him. One of them questions why he looks exactly like the man they know. Our hero thinks of an excuse and decides to try something new this time to trick them. He introduces himself as Kia Sang and says he is looking for his son Colin. The men are shocked and say he doesn't look older than 30 years old. With a smile, he thinks this is the effect of the immortal fist that keeps him young. He boasts about training hard and asks them to take him to his missing son. A few moments later at the thieves' base, the scene repeats itself once more. Our hero is laying in bed, pretending to be gone, while the leader cries. He consoles the leader and tells him not to be so sad about his son's passing. The young man says the living must go on, and the leader looks at him with surprise. Angrily, he promises to take out the Lord who in his 2 sons lives without mercy. He invites the leader to join him and fight for the people against the tyrant. He is now a Class 7 and can face the Lord, but he needs a helper. The leader thinks he is strong, but impulsive, and decides to calm him down first. He says that defeating the Lord will take time and that invading the mansion won't work. The leader asks him to think about it and to find him when he decides what to do. He says he will deliver the son's body so that the dogs don't interfere with his plan. The thieves' leader is shocked and asks if he is really going to send his son's body. He explains that the Lord hates his son and will hang him on the city wall to show the people. Our protagonist looks at the leader with a serious expression and asks if it's really true. With a smile, he says his son's body will be the perfect bait to lure the Lord. The leader shouts that he is literally his son, but the young man doesn't seem to care. Our hero says he is willing to be the bait instead of his son to defeat the Lord. The leader is shocked by the young man's attitude and doesn't know what to say. With a sigh, he calls our hero brother and looks at him with admiration. He bows and says the young man has his deepest respect for his courage. With a smile, our protagonist thinks he has gained a helper and a plan for the takedown. In the Lord's room, a carrier pigeon arrives with an important message for him. The man reads the letter with a serious and thoughtful look about the information he received. He discovers that not even the best seers can find information about the Kia family. With a smile, he realizes he was almost fooled by the two stupid boys and gets angry. A guard enters and announces that they have found our hero's body in the river. Furious, the Lord orders them to bring the body and says he wants to see it right now. A coffin is brought into the room and the man approaches to open it carefully. He confirms that it is indeed Colin's body and looks at it with a serious expression. He orders to check if there is anything wrong with the doctor who found him in the river. The Lord says he will personally hang the body on the city wall.